One touch, that is all it takes, my friend. One touch of a man's hand on a woman's hand, and her body has already decided how it feels about him. In that instant, everything fires at once. Her skin reads his intention before her mind catches up. And here is what no man tells you. A younger man's touch and an older man's touch are not the same thing. Her body reads them completely differently. The older man's touch, done right, does something a younger man simply cannot do. Tonight, I'm going to show you exactly what happens in her body, second by second, when an older man touches her hand. Stay to the end because the final secret separates a touch she forgets from a touch she never stops thinking about. The first moment, her skin reads the intention. The instant an older man's hand touches a woman's hand, my friend, her skin begins to read something before her mind has any chance to catch up. It reads the intention behind the touch. This is not poetry. This is physiology. Human skin is one of the most sensitive instruments in the entire body, dense with nerve endings whose only job is to gather information about the world and the people in it. And when another person's hand makes contact, those nerve endings do not just register pressure and temperature, they register quality. They register the manner of the touch. They register with astonishing accuracy what the touch means. A nervous touch feels different from a confident one. A grasping touch feels different from a generous one. A touch that wants to take feels different from a touch that wants to give. The woman's skin reads all of this in a fraction of a second, and it sends that reading straight to the deep, ancient parts of her brain that decide how to feel about the man doing the touching. And here is where the older man holds an advantage that younger men rarely possess. The younger man's touch often carries a current of nervousness, of urgency, of want barely held in check. The woman's skin reads this, and her body stays slightly guarded because the touch is telling her that this man needs something from her. The older man, the one who has settled into himself, who is not desperate, who is not rushing, touches differently. His touch is unhurried. It is certain. It carries no tremor of anxiety, no grasping urgency, and her skin reads this immediately, as safety, as a man who is touching her because he wants to, not because he needs to. That distinction registered in the very first moment sets the stage for everything that follows. The second moment, the nervous system decides. In the seconds after the touch, my friend, a quiet but momentous decision is being made inside the woman's body. Her nervous system is deciding which direction to go. The human nervous system has two great modes. One is the mode of alertness, of guardedness, of low-level readiness for threat. The other is the mode of calm, of openness, of rest and connection. And in any given moment, especially in the presence of a man, a woman's nervous system is leaning subtly toward one or the other. The touch of a hand is one of the most powerful inputs that can tip the balance. A wrong touch, a touch that feels grabby or nervous or entitled, pushes her nervous system toward guardedness. Her body subtly braces. The walls stay up. Whatever was beginning to open closes again. But the right touch, the calm and certain touch of a man who is at peace with himself, does the opposite. It signals her nervous system to relax, to stand down, to shift from guarded to open. And when this shift happens, everything changes. Her breathing slows, her shoulders soften. The tension she carries, the tension she always carries, begins to release. This is the great gift the older man's touch can offer, my friend. And it is one that younger men struggle to give. Because to deliver a touch that calms a woman's nervous system, the man's own nervous system must first be calm. You cannot transmit a peace you do not possess. The anxious man's touch transmits anxiety. The settled man's touch transmits settledness. And the older man who has done his living, who has burned through his desperation, who has made peace with himself, carries a calm in his very hands that a woman's body drinks in like water. She may not know why his touch makes her feel safe. She only knows that it does, and that feeling of safety delivered through the skin is one of the most powerful forces in all of human attraction. The third moment, the chemistry releases. Once her nervous system has decided to open, my friend, the chemistry begins, and it is more powerful than most people realize. Human touch, the right kind of human touch, triggers the release of oxytocin. This is the bonding chemical, the same one released between a mother and her child, the same one that flows between long-married couples, the chemistry of warmth and trust and connection. When an older man touches a woman's hand in a way that her body has read as safe and certain, oxytocin begins to move through her system, and with it comes a feeling that is difficult to put into words. A softening, a warming, a sense of being held even by the smallest contact. Alongside the oxytocin comes a quiet shift in her stress chemistry. The hormones of guardedness and vigilance begin to recede. The body that was holding itself ready, the way a woman's body is so often holding itself ready, begins to let go. This is a profound physical relief, and the man whose touch produces it becomes associated in the deepest layers of her memory. With that relief, here is the part that matters most, my friend. This chemistry does not release for just any touch. It releases for touch that the body has read as genuine, as safe, as unhurried, as coming from a man who is present rather than grasping. A rushed touch, an anxious touch, a touch that is clearly a means to an end, does not produce this cascade. The body knows the difference. It always knows. And this is why the older man's touch, when it carries the calm and certainty that age can bring, has such power. It is more likely to be read as genuine, more likely to be unhurried, more likely to come from a man who is touching her for the simple pleasure of the contact rather than as a transaction. And so it is more likely to unlock the chemistry that turns a simple touch into the beginning of a bond. The fourth moment, memory begins to form. Now something happens that almost no one ever thinks about, my friend. In the moments after a meaningful touch, the woman's body begins to lay down a memory. Touch is one of the most powerful encoders of memory we possess. The body remembers how it was touched long after the mind has forgotten the words that were spoken. A woman can forget almost everything about an evening and still remember with perfect clarity the way a man's hand felt on hers. The memory is stored not just in her mind, but in her body, in the very nerves that received the contact, and the quality of the touch determines the quality of the memory. A touch that felt safe, warm, certain, and unhurried encodes as a good memory, one her body will want to return to. A touch that felt grabby, nervous, or wrong encodes as a memory her body files under caution. Long after the encounter, when she thinks of the man, her body will call up the memory of his touch and color her entire feeling about him accordingly. This is why the older man who knows how to touch a woman's hand correctly has an advantage that extends far beyond the moment itself. He is not just creating a pleasant instant, he is laying down a physical memory that will draw her back to him, that will make her think of him when he is not there, that will give her body a reason to want his presence again. The younger man, rushing and grasping, often lays down the wrong memory without realizing it. The older man, unhurried and certain, lays down a memory that works in his favor for days, weeks, sometimes much longer. The touch ends in seconds. The memory of it lasts. The fifth moment, she reads the whole man through his hand. And here we arrive at the deepest truth of all, my friend, the thing almost no man understands. When an older man touches a woman's hand, she is not just feeling his hand, she is reading the whole man through it. A hand carries an entire life. The woman's body in that moment of contact is gathering an impression that goes far beyond the physical sensation. She is reading his confidence or his fear, his patience or his urgency, his presence or his distraction, his self-respect or his desperation. All of it travels through the single point of contact between his hand and hers. And her body assembles it into a complete picture of the kind of man he is. This is why you cannot fake a good touch, my friend. The touch is honest. It reveals what is actually inside the man. A man who is anxious cannot deliver a calm touch no matter how he tries, because his anxiety leaks out through his skin. A man who is grasping cannot deliver a generous touch because his hunger is in his hand. A man who is distracted cannot deliver a present touch because his absence is felt in the contact. But the older man who has truly done his inner work, who is genuinely at peace, who is present and unhurried and secure, delivers a touch that reveals all of that. And the woman reading the whole man through his hand feels in a single instant what it might take her weeks to learn through conversation. She feels his steadiness. She feels his depth. She feels the calm of a man who has nothing to prove and nowhere to rush to. This is the secret that separates the touch she forgets from the touch she remembers for the rest of her life. It is not technique. It is not a method. It is the truth of the man transmitted through his hand into the most honest sense she possesses. The older man who has become genuinely calm, genuinely present, genuinely whole, carries that wholeness in his hands. And when he touches a woman's hand, she feels the entire man all at once, and her body responds to the truth of him. So there it is, my friend. What happens in a woman's body when an older man touches her hand? Her skin reads the intention. Her nervous system decides to open. The chemistry of bonding releases. A physical memory begins to form. And through that single point of contact, she reads the whole man. All that he is, transmitted honestly through his hand into hers. But I want to leave you with the truth that lives beneath all of this. Because if you take it as a technique, you will have missed everything. You cannot practice your way to a good touch. You cannot perform calm you do not have, or transmit a peace you do not possess. The touch is honest precisely because it cannot lie. It reveals the actual state of the man delivering it. And this means the only path to becoming a man whose touch a woman never forgets is to actually become that man. Calm because you have made peace with yourself. Present because you have stopped rushing through your life. Secure because you have stopped needing to prove anything. Unhurried because you have learned that the best moments cannot be rushed. This is the deeper invitation, my friend. Not to learn how to touch a woman's hand, to become the kind of man whose touch carries everything a touch is capable of carrying. The years have given you the raw material, the living, the losing, the reflecting, the slow settling into yourself that only age makes possible. Your task is to complete that work, to become genuinely whole, so that when you reach out and your hand finds hers, she feels the truth of a man who has arrived at himself. That touch is something no younger man can give her. It is yours, available to you at exactly the age you are. And it is one of the most powerful things you will ever possess if you become the man capable of delivering it. If this reached something in you, leave a like. Subscribe for more honest conversations about presence, connection, and the quiet power of a man who has settled into himself. And tell me in the comments whether you have ever felt the difference a single touch can make. Until next time, my friend.